Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group, and today we have a representative of HUD, uh, someone that I've known for 30 something years, Ulysses Deke Clayborn. Uh, Welcome to the show, Deke.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Carlos. Yeah, as you know, that I'm the regional administrator for HUD for Region 7, which covers four states, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska.
Uh, Talk a little bit about what you're dealing with right now.
Well, what we're dealing with is, as so many people are dealing with, is this whole, and we're in an environment where we have a scarcity of housing, and which has the result of that is we've had an increase in sale prices of housing, rents have gone up because of this scarcity. And we are in the process of trying to do what we can to increase the supply of affordable housing, because if by doing so, by increasing the supply, we'll eventually have a reduction in the sales price, reduction in rents, and making sure that people have a safe, decent, and sanitary place to live. That's the HUD mission. HUD's mission is to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and quality, affordable homes, not just housing, but homes for all.
All right, go, go
And
ahead.
what I want to talk about is, we know that we have issues that somehow have affected and negatively, adversely affected, especially African Americans and African Americans and other ethnic minorities and their ability to acquire housing. Uh, and so we're addressing those things. We have groups and branches in place to address housing discrimination. Uh, but at the same time, we have certain myths that are out here, and we're trying to also address those things that really don't have any validity to them, but we need to address them so that people will not feel that these are barriers that cannot be overcome. And some of these myths, first of all, people just know understanding what HUD is. HUD is really more of a gigantic insurance company. HUD will insure loans. That's what the FHA insured loans. You go to a bank. The bank says you can do it conventional, or you can acquire a house through using an FHA insured loan, and that loan is insured by HUD. So the bank doesn't really have a lot of risk. And since the bank doesn't have as much risk, they can reduce the interest rate on the loan. If for whatever reason a person defaults on the loan, HUD or through the Federal Housing Administration, FHA, will pay off the bank. So that, and by doing so, the government, FHA, through HUD, will create an opportunity that sometimes has not been there before. So these myths, for instance, for instance, people will say that they need 20% down, a 20% down payment. Well, you don't. And with FHA insured mortgage, you only need a 3.5% down payment. 3.5%. Quite a difference. Uh, also, uh, that the question, can my friends or family help me with that down payment? Some people think that they can't. Yes, friends and family, the FHA does allow gifts with certain stipulations. It says I can't buy a house because I don't have perfect credit. Well, FHA will, good credit helps, but FHA can work with lower credit scores. And then it says, I need to be on the same job. You hear this? I need to be on the same job for 2 years. No, you don't. You just need to have a, a work history of 2 years. And a school and military service count. It says I have a student loan, and so therefore I can't get an FHA loan. Well, that's not true. You can get. In fact, FHA has changed the way that that its lenders are underwriting the loan. They used to look at a percentage of that in total school debt and looking at and treating that as the debt. Now they treat it just like any other loan, any other debt. You will look at what is the monthly payment on that loan. And it says also, I found a fixer upper, and it needs some work, and I don't think HUD would FHA uh, will insure this loan, or I can get a loan on this property. Well, yes, you can. HUD has a program called 203K. It's a loan product, and it will wrap around the cost of the acquisition and the rehabilitation, any rehabilitation that's necessary. So just trying to deal with these myths that are out here, these myths have caused people to not to pursue home ownership when they're definitely qualified to pursue it and obtain a home. So we're trying to get these myths out here, trying to address them, and then also dealing with the real issues that are out here. There are some real issues, things that are stopping, that are prohibiting, or at least barriers to Black and brown people acquiring homes, because we all know that the home ownership gap between African Americans, Black home ownership gap between Black Americans and white America is 30%. That's just too, and with respect to Hispanic, that it's 28%, still much too high. And so we've got to do things that put policies in place that will help to reduce that gap and make sure that people, Black and brown people, have an opportunity to the generational wealth building possibilities that are afforded by housing, home ownership.
There was two or three things that went across my little brain. I wanted to, because I knew you when I had my general contracting company, and there were agencies like HDCIC and RLC, Rehab Loan Corporation, and I'm trying to remember because they had the dollar houses where the HUD was backing the loans for the individuals that were getting the dollar houses and such. That was one of my questions. Then the other is from a development standpoint, I've interviewed quite a few developers here in this town. How does HUD affect them acquiring capital, or is there any process? The last one before I forget is you under the Biden administration, and talk about some of the things that the president has initiated that you see that are working and that are in the work to work. You know, a lot of times because I'm an entrepreneur and what have you, you have a plan and then something happens and people go to another plan instead of seeing whether the plan that you have works, and it takes time to produce results.
Yeah, it does, and that's a great point. You know, with respect to the home ownership, just gonna stay there for a while because it's so important to try to reduce that gap to make sure people have an opportunity to acquire a home. But there's something called a mortgage insurance premium that's paid. What HUD has done there is to reduce what's called the mortgage insurance premium, the MIP, by 35 what they call basis points, and as a result of that, that has lowered the monthly cost of a home by 800, the yearly cost of acquiring a home by $875 on average. Trying to find ways that we can engage to make sure that Black and brown people have an opportunity to acquire a home. There's something they call special purpose credit programs. You got your first time home buyer programs, down payment assistance programs. Those are available, and trying to make sure that folks understand that there's that these are options and are available. What one of the great things is HUD funds what we call housing credit agencies, and they're throughout the state, throughout the country. And they are these housing credit agencies help guide a purchaser, a prospective purchaser, through the home buying process. So that they will help answer questions like how much, what is affordable for me? How much home can I afford to buy? Where would I find a good lender? Uh, where what options are available as far as for special purpose credit programs. Uh, Help them identify and work through their credit history, because we all know that so a great percentage of the credit history, it has issues. There are things that are wrong there. So that takes time. You don't want to wait till you about ready to you've found a house that you want to buy and then find out that you got have a problem with credit. That you want to make sure that you start early, working through all those issues, and the credit housing credit agencies can help you with that. And they only charge that what their rate, what they charge you for their help is based on income. And so for a lot of times, there is very little that's called that the cost for that, and HUD subsidizes those housing credit agencies. So I wanted to just make sure that I wanted to make sure that I shared that, because sometimes people feel like they're out there by themselves, and this purchase of a home is one of the largest investments an individual is going to make, and they feel like they really don't have some guidance. But there are uh, housing counseling agencies throughout the state and throughout the country, and that they can provide that assistance. Now, getting back to your questions, though, I think you talked about the dollar house
The dollar
program.
houses, and they
Yeah,
have similar programs now, rehab programs. How does HUD interact with that? And as I said,
yeah.
I have developers that we do they have special programs for these developers that are trying to secure capital?
Yeah, HUD, as I stated earlier, HUD does not really make loans. We're more of an insurer of loans based on the program. If it's what we call 221D4, which is our multifamily program for that a bank would make the loan, HUD insures the loan. But I remember that funds that HUD does provide, we do provide loans and funds to cities, and they will use these funds to stand up certain programs like a dollar house, because HUD doesn't own the housing. We don't own any housing, uh, but the city might take those funds and set up a program like with HEDFC, and we're in the old days.
Right, HDIC and rehab loan. That's how I really rose in the construction ranks, learning from
Yeah,
the ground up, doing dollar houses, and then
yeah,
graduating to sixplexes, and then
right.
graduating to commercial and what have you.
Yes. Now, I
HUD
mean,
guaranteed all them loans. That's what but I did not know that HUD gave the money to the city. I realized
right,
all those were city agencies, but didn't see how, uh,
the connection.
right.
Yeah, HUD is there in the background on a lot of these things we provide the money to the city, and they the whole thinking philosophy of the federal government, and it varies, but that the city out there has a better idea of how to use these funds and what are the needs of their community than a top-down federal mandate. Where HUD in Washington determines what programs you need. Uh, we are more take the position that provide the funding, and here are eligible uses of the funds, and the city, county, or can then take it from there.
Do you have
Uh,
any
but
contact with the KC Tenants Association here?
I have not. You know, it's interesting. You know, I know that they're prominent here and active, but I've not been engaged with them. You know, you just know that they are working to make sure, especially during the pandemic, and where HUD was really instrumental in with FHA insured mortgages. FHA insured mortgages. We couldn't do anything with respect to conventional because we don't occupy that space. But making sure that we had moratoriums, foreclosure moratoriums, forbearance, making sure that we could adjust the payments so that individuals could stay in their homes rather than be pushed out into the street. We had eviction moratoriums, so that people were not going to be evicted and pushed out into the street, and it further increased the homelessness problem. That's what HUD was doing in the days of the pandemic, trying to do what we could with respect to FHA insured mortgages. And I want to continue to repeat that because sometimes people think that, hey, there's a problem here, and we agree that there is a problem, but it may not be something that HUD can intervene in because we don't have we have no regulatory authority with respect to loans that are conventional. But we do engage with individuals like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and to talk about what can be done because though they are a large purchaser of mortgages. You know, so I think the most important thing is just, hey, HUD is aware of what's going on in the market. Some of the things we can do something about, some of them we cannot because we just don't have the space.
As I said, last but least, what is the president? What's his rollout on HUD since you've been there 2 years now?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I think that, for instance, we 150 provided 150 million in new first-time homebuyer loans uh, in between 22 and 21 and 23, were to Black families. You know, and so that for making sure that we are focused with a special emphasis on trying to get money and loans into Black families so that we can reduce this gap. Also, one of the things that was important to our secretary, the former secretary, Marshall Fudge, and also with our new acting secretary, Adrian Totman, is the whole idea of looking through our programs, all our programs, through a lens of equity, trying to make sure that we can look and see how these programs, how are they rolling out here in reality. And one of the things that was a focus is, and still is this whole idea of property property appraisal and valuation equity, which is talking about racial bias in the appraisal industry. And we have done a lot with that issue. One of the things we did was had a screening of this documentary called America Lowballed, which depicts individuals who have had their homes appraised in the process of selling their homes, and only to receive an appraisal that was below the actual value of the house. These individuals then went back and did what we call whitewash their homes, removing anything that would indicate that there was a person of color that lived there. And some who went further to have a white friend stand in for the second appraisal, and the appraisals were higher on the second appraisal. We are now actively working with the appraisal industry to address that, and we had a convening here in Kansas City to arm individuals and make sure they knew that they have the ability to file a a claim with the appraisal industry if they feel like something like that has happened, And in addition, of course, they can file a claim, a complaint with the Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity Department of HUD. And anyone who has experienced any kind of discrimination can call HUD at 1-800-699-9777 or go to their website at www.hud.gov/fair housing and file a complaint, and it will be investigated. And we are seeing individuals having decisions obtained in their favor as a result of this appraisal bias. So it's a real thing, and we want to continue to address it.
And just redlining.
Yeah, well, redlining is definitely something that still the effects of it are still here with us, and it's interesting because this year we commemorate the 56th anniversary of the passage of the Fair Housing Act, which was passed in April 11, 1968, and we have a branch here, Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity, and their job is to enforce the Fair Housing Law, the Fair Housing Act. And so that this month, although we're almost through with April, this is Fair Housing Month, as designated by the president, and it is although we at HUD fight for fair housing and to enforce the fair housing law every day of the year, but this month we want to make sure that we have a special emphasis on letting the public know about fair housing. We've had a lot of activities. In fact, I will be at the Kansas City, and we'll hold a fair housing and equity summit on the 26th of this month, and it'll be held at the Federal Reserve Bank. And just today, I was at a fair housing event in Lawrence, Kansas. So we're in every state in our region, making sure that we let people know that, hey, there are laws, and if, to the extent that you feel like you've been discriminated against, there are tools and that you're at your disposal. You're not alone.
So, in closing, what would you have to say to our audience?
Well, I just want to tell them that HUD is a partner with you. We understand that that sometimes these going through the process of either acquiring a home or engaged, as you stated, in development work, that HUD is a partner to help address these issues and help folks navigate their way through these processes. We are making sure that with respect to, as I said, with respect to PAVE, that we're taking steps to address it. We want to make sure with respect to discrimination, that folks understand that they're not alone. I guess really this whole idea of housing is so important, and because everyone needs a home. You need a home in order to be able to acquire a job. You need a home. You have to have an address where you're going to be stable. And with respect to health, we all definitely need health, and we need a place to access health. But eventually, you're going to be released from the hospital, and you need a place that you call home. And it's not just a house; it's a home. And with respect to all the co-determinants of health, which are housing, transportation, health, and childcare, all the things that you need in order to live a quality life. So, all of that pretty much wraps it up for me. But because I could go on talking about this.
No, we're gonna have you back on once I do some homework. And
well, let's work together.
That's what I'm saying. Once I do some homework, and
yes.
Then I'd like to have you back on to talk about a few things that I'll be able to. To me, this was an introduction. Just like I said, I was a general contractor and didn't understand totally that the city was HUD was backing that. I did know that HUD was backing those loans
Yeah.
for the housing and for the sixplex renovation and what have
Uh-huh.
you, but I did not know, didn't connect those dots.
Yeah.
I'm still James Watts's closing. I like to make him mad all the time. He he's the co-founder of What's Up Kansas City's brand, and he's always closing like this, Deke. It was a plum pleasing pleasure having you on the show. I'm like, Watts, man, you know we snidely whiplash and we tie Sweet Nell to the train tracks and wait for Dudley Do Right to come and release her.
That's funny.
I'm not a nice guy.
Well,
But
I tell you, it's been great talking to you, and I'm glad that you provided me the opportunity to come on your show. I hope that I get the chance to come back and address any concerns that you have, because we want to make sure that there's equity in the development world. We want to make sure that as we develop these communities, that folks that live in them actually have some input also. A lot of that comes through the development process, and we just there's still work to be done. But but we do have some programs like what we call the Choice Neighborhoods program. Family self-sufficiency program is just it's an incredible program from the housing authority, where individuals that live in the housing authority can uh, save. Basically, this is how it works. To be really quick, $200. Say you pay 200. You don't pay any more than 30% of your adjusted income for housing. Your adjusted monthly income for housing. So say that comes to like, um, uh, say that comes to $200. Okay, and then you get a raise, and so you now making $900, and so 30% of that would be $300. Well, that extra $100, that increment, will go into a special account, and every month it goes in there. And as you get further raises and increase in income, that increment, that whatever is above what you initially started paying, will go into this account. And at the end of 5 years, and also training and workshops. At the end of that 5 years, you get access to that money, and you can then use it for down payment assistance, to go back to school, to buy a car, whatever, these eligible and things that will help you reach self-sufficiency. It's a wonderful program, and the Housing Authority of Kansas City has this great event at the end when these folks get their money, and this graduation ceremony. And I tell you what, it's a great message for everyone. For those people that who are their families, folks that live in the community, who see these individuals who are just like them, and they're able to acquire a sum of money that they can then use, and continue to advance and work towards self-sufficiency. So just wanted to share that with
all
you.
right, well, again, my brain was working as you was talking.
Okay.
First thing shot in my mind, I had just seen something on Facebook with the big 5 gallon uh, water jug that that and it said if you put 50 cents per day, 365 days, you'll have 18,000 and somewhat. And when you said how they took that money, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yes. Yes.
That
Yes.
you could, and I said, man, you need to be doing that, Mr. Nelson. All at 18,000 at saving at 50 cents a day is, you know,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like much, but like you were saying, the 30% or the 10%, it
Yeah.
mounts up. When you turn
It
around,
does.
then you're able to have a little something to really make a move.
You're right. It really can, and it gives a message out to not only something that you realize, but other people around you see it and are able to say, "Wow, maybe I need to do that too."
This is what I want to ask you. I'd like to try to get you back on around Juneteenth, and I would like you to have some specific things that HUD is doing for people of color.
Yeah, that would be great. I'll be happy to do that. Let's do that. Let's make
All
that
right,
happen. Okay.
I'll get with Brian and we'll get something going. So
All right.
as we always close, I dare Jim to steal my closing. When you invest in your community, you're really just investing in your.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.